Hi, I'm Nick Shell, and today we're going to talk about what happens when you flush the toilet. Where does that go? So it all really begins once you, oh, actually, sorry, I got distracted. There's something here. And oh, of course, as we would expect, it is a comment I received from a video I made yesterday. So the video I'm referring to is hair transplant versus balding in Nashville. And our good friend, the bisexual centrist, who's left a comment or two before, that were quite relevant and helpful to carry on this conversation on ultimately what is a glorified message board about hair loss. The best one in the world, by the way. The bisexual centrist had this to say, quote, "Nick, you're right to be skeptical about getting a hair transplant. The fact that you're accepting the fact your hair is fading away and find solace in other things that are a part of you than just your hair shows that you are a genuine person. Hair transplants can be great for some, I agree, but those who get it don't truly have the confidence inside themselves to accept that in life you age. This is why I like your channel. You're a mentor to those who realize that hair isn't that important," end quote. Now, already, I think probably most of you disagree with this comment. That's my guess. I could be wrong. My guess is that fundamentally most of you disagree because it is implied that for lack of confidence, one must get a hair transplant. And therefore, if we open up the door all the way, it's to say, therefore, lack of confidence means that you must get or you must take Propecia or get tattoo pigment, whatever it is, in order to take care of your hair loss. That is definitely implied here. And that's ultimately a fundamental part of my teachings here on my channel here. Let's explore that because I don't want to make it so cut and dry, so black and white. Even though I am leaning toward that side and believing that, I think we need to explore that a little bit more. Now, let's talk about what my wife and I watched on Netflix last night. We watched the first half of a new thing on Netflix original. It's called Chris D'Elia. I think it's called Man on Fire. So it's this comedian. I've seen him before, and he happens to be the same age as me. He happens to be 36, and that's almost one of the themes in this comedy special he does. Basically, and one of the things too he said that I can totally relate to. He said, "I'm 36. When I tell people that, no one stops me and says, 'Oh, you can't be 36.' It's more like they don't argue." And it's funny because, and he's probably pushing Norwood 3, but he has long hair, so he hides it. But he doesn't have the thinning that I have. But anyway, he's just talking about that once you get my age, or our age, 36, people, like, it's obviously you're a man. You're not a guy. You're a man at this point. Like, undeniably, people just look at you and like, okay, yeah. Even if you're like me and you're not, like, out of shape and you take good care of yourself, you still look 36, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But something he talks about in being 36, he talks about how a decade ago, at age 26, that at the time he was married, he got married when he was 26. And he said he was too young to be married. He didn't realize that at the time, but he was. And he said something to the effect of, he said, "There's no way I could have had the confidence I needed to be married when I was 26. He says, there's a level of confidence that you cannot have when you're in your teen years and in your 20s. You just can't get it." And I completely relate to him because I can put a number on it. It wasn't until age 34 that I gained the confidence in life that I really needed my whole life, that I always wanted my whole life. But I think by age 34, like mid-30s, by that point you've made enough mistakes, you've learned enough life lessons to have confidence that easily supersedes anything like hair loss. Hair loss is nothing by the time you're 34 because of all the life lessons that you've learned. And it's interesting, and we've talked about this before. Who's watching this channel? We've got over 1,600 people. Who's watching this? People my age? Barely. A few are. There's some that are in their 30s. But for the most part, most people are about half my age. It's true. And what does that say? What does that say about you, and what does that say about me? What it says is, people who have yet to reach that confidence level that you can, in my opinion, only reach by the time you get to your mid-30s. And even then, you're not guaranteed to reach it. But I think it speaks volumes about the demographics and why I am a good leader and communicator when it comes to this. Because what you have when you have me, you don't have a hair loss expert. I'll joke around about that, but you don't. I'm not a hair loss expert. What you have access to is someone who has lived long enough, made enough mistakes, and gained that level of confidence that you don't have yet. And honestly, you can't have. I don't care how confident of a person you are at age 20, you can't have the confidence that I have, that to where I'm like, I don't care about hair loss. I really don't. Let's get this over with. Let's just lose it. It's fine, whatever. Because that's so not something I'm worried about. So I also want to just track back on something I had said a few weeks ago too. I made this video talking about another thing on Netflix, Anne with an E. And talking this one episode, she says her aunt accuses her of being vain. But Anne believes that she's ugly. And she says to her aunt, she says, how can I be vain if I'm ugly? And we need to talk about that again, because I think this goes back to this whole concept about the confidence that you gain from life experiences to where all the other stuff doesn't matter anymore. Because here's my theory. My theory is this, that pride gets in the way of confidence. Oh, I just dropped that. Are you ready to pick that up? You want to hear it again? Pride gets in the way of confidence. I know that sounds like a paradox, and really it is. How could pride get in the way of your confidence? That's actually what I'm saying. Because before you really have confidence, what do you rely on? You have to fake it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make it. So you have to depend on a little bit of pride to get you through it. Because that's how life is. You're not given the answers. You don't know what to do. Most of my life, I wish somebody would sit me down and say, okay, Nick, here's what to do. Here's what to say. No, it doesn't work that way. You learn from your mistakes. So by the time you've lived through 3.5 decades of figuring it out, you finally get to the point where you realize how to have that confidence. And so therefore, I think a lot of people watching my videos, by default, you have to, your fuel is your pride until you can get to true confidence. I think it definitely is. We can't deny the fact that, why is it, let's talk about this. Why is it that men my age are not the ones watching my videos? Because there's a lot of men my age that have less hair than me. Why aren't they watching my videos? Why aren't they commenting? Because they've already been where I've been. Whether they've got more or less hair than me, that's beside the point. Point is, they've lived through 3.5 decades. You got to get to age 34, and by that point, then you don't even have time to think about hair loss, because then you've got this whole other set of things to actually worry about and focus on. So I think this is a lot of information, but I think it's very important. I do think that pride can get in the way of our actual confidence, when confidence is the thing that we actually need to begin with. Long video, but I had to say it all.